So guys, we are back here at Sam's place, well actually Joey's place right now. We just actually met yesterday. Sam introduced the two of us, and I wanted to sit down for a second and kind of talk to you about some motivation and inspiration and mindset that you have, because just after talking yesterday, we talked for easily an hour yesterday at dinner and easily an hour today. And this dude is one of the craziest, most motivational, inspirational people I have ever met. And he can talk. He can really talk. So, yeah, man, I just want to sit down and talk about some cool shit.
Love it.
You know,
do it.
I guess we should probably start with your story. How are you here right now?
Sure. So right now I'm a public speaker for a Fortune 500 company, and if you had asked me 9 years ago, am I going to be here? No way, I could have got here. So I graduated high school, grew up working with my parents, they owned their own garage door business, working in the truck, and my dad always said one thing. He said, Joe, in your 20s, find the easiest way to make the most amount of money without going into debt. I'm like, all right. Two older sisters and a brother-in-law were cutting hair, and so my sister, an amazing salesman, just sold me into the hair industry. Yeah. And I feel like I just blacked out, woke up 6 months in, learning how to use a curling iron, doing updos for weddings, things that I never thought I would do growing up, just being a normal kid, a normal guy, playing basketball and shit like that. And now I'm learning how to deal with people and their hair and charging $60 for a haircut when I'm hanging out with my friends, and I'm definitely not worth that. Yeah. And so at that point, I remember talking to my dad, I'm like, how do I get good with people? How do I level up? Do I take a public speaking class out of college or what? He's like, you need to take a Dale Carnegie class. Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People, and it's this book that changed the trajectory of my life. I legit remember when I was reading it at 2 in the morning the first time I was 19, I started jumping up and down on the couch because I felt like it was the secret, the keys to the universe. Yeah. And so that was my first exposure to public speaking. So nervous, so uncomfortable, but cut hair, 4 or 5 years, fast forward, needed a few hip surgeries, couldn't stand on my feet anymore, and that forced me to recalibrate. I'm like, if I can learn how to cut hair, something I have no passion about, I can learn anything. I was like, I could be an orthopedic surgeon, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly, and I used to think I wasn't good at school and this and that. I'm like, if I can learn that, learn anything.
Of course.
Right? So I did that, and I'm like, I've always wanted to learn the markets. So I taught myself how to day trade futures out of my parents' basement. I would get up each morning and put on a suit and tie and just hanging out, eating bowls of cereal in the basement, but you have to look the part to feel the part. So
of course, yeah.
I was doing that for 2 years, made some money, lost more money, and I was like, I want to be around people that do this all the time. So I applied to this, very successful, huge financial firm, and I went in with the interview. Mind you, no college degree. I'm self-taught, trading futures, still cut hair 3 days a week. And I said, hey, I cut hair, and hair with women's emotional, money's emotional, and I taught myself how to trade futures. So give me a shot. And I'm like, all right. And that was 5 years ago.
And I think that is absolutely insane because there are so many people here today that are I have to go to college, I have to do this, Yeah. And there are a lot of careers out there where you do have to go to college. True. And that's something that is very needed. And if you want to go to college and you want that career, then that's what you should do.
Agreed.
But you kind of waltzed right up in there and you said, I can do this, give me a shot.
And it's funny, when I started out, I remember being in my new hire class feeling man, I'm in the wrong room. All these people with these prestigious degrees, way smarter, way more intelligent, traditional, fundamental, foundational backgrounds and knowledge that I traded futures, I knew a little bit, but deep down I was like, these people know more than me. And I was I actually was what's the word, not hesitant, but I looked down on my past. I was really embarrassed to say I was a hairstylist. And I found fast forward 6 months, being a hairstylist is actually what set me up for success, because I just learned how to talk with people. And in the financial industry, where finance is only above government and tobacco in terms of trust when it comes to that market compared to other markets, it's all about dealing with people. And if you know how to deal with people, it doesn't matter how prestigious your background is, if you went to a top 30 school or not, if you can talk with people and build trust, that's the key to the universe. And that's for that Dale Carnegie thing what set me up for success. And that's really what got me here today, is just always being willing to learn something from people. Doesn't matter if it's the janitor or the CEO, and continuing to learn and just focusing on emotional intelligence more so than IQ. Because it doesn't matter how smart you are, if you can't convey your ideas, it'll die on your lips.
course. I do think it's really sweet how you say learning. You know, I think it's very important to always keep learning, and I like to keep learning as much as I can as well. You know, I'm learning every day of this 90-day challenge.
Yes.
How to talk to a camera, how to be comfortable on camera. I'm learning just to put myself out there, get off my and go out and do things. You know, I'm also learning different editing, different photos, different everything. You know. So I think learning is super duper sweet, and I learn a lot of the things that I know off of YouTube because the one guy actually told me a long time ago, you can learn anything and everything for free on YouTube. And
I agree with that.
you have, you know, in this day and age, we have this crazy thing called the internet.
Right.
At our fingertips, it's literally everywhere. It's in my pocket right now.
Yes.
It's on my laptop. It's everywhere.
Yes.
You know, and you can learn almost anything off of the internet. And so I think that's really interesting. And do you read books, or do you watch YouTube videos, or do you where do you continue your learning?
Yeah. You know, and before I get to that, reminds me of something I've wanted to tell you since last night, but the time just didn't feel right. So you're on this 90-day challenge, which is dope and respectable. And as soon as I met you, I was like, that is sweet. That is super cool. And hearing you talk about your experience, in learning, you're learning so much more than you probably even realize, or maybe you do realize it, but it's something that a lot of people should hear this story. And specifically what inspired me is hearing your story about Kansas City and how you met and how you met your boy, and how that happened, and how such a small thing can lead to this huge thing.
Yeah.
Which is you out here doing this 90-day challenge, from you going up to talking to somebody with a skateboard. It literally started from there.
Honestly, I should talk about that story.
You should.
I don't think anybody knows that story.
They don't know this story?
I don't think anybody knows that story. So we'll go back. We'll rewind here. So a while back, I got a dare to drive to Kansas City on my day off. It was a dare from my boss. He said, drive to Kansas City on your day off and talk to as many people as you can until you find a place to sleep at night. And so, being a performer, I was somewhat okay with talking to people, and definitely better than a lot of people. You know, I'm very outgoing. I love talking to people. I love talking. I probably talk way too much. Way too much.
Fair. Feel that?
Yeah, you do too.
It works for you.
Not just me.
Yeah, we do it.
So I talk way too much. So I went and I talked to everybody that I could. I went and I found the busiest street, which is 47th Street if you ever go to Kansas City. 47th Street's Plaza.
Sure.
Huge shopping district, tons of people. And I went up and down the street all day long. And all day long. And I talked to probably a person every 5 or 10 minutes.
Okay.
But what I found is most of those conversations didn't lead anywhere.
Right.
You know, a lot of those conversations were you'd find something to talk about, oh, they have a sweet sweater on, or they're holding a camera and I'm holding a camera, so you can bond over that real quick.
Yeah.
But most people there are focused on their own things. Most people there are focused on, their new handbag that they're about to buy, or focused on going to school, or going to the park, or going someplace. Most people don't have the time to take out of their day to go and talk to somebody. And that's something that got me down over the course of the day. You
got depressed.
By the end of the day, it was about 6 o'clock, I think. By the end of the day, I showed up easily 10 o'clock in the morning.
Okay.
I was up and down that street all day. All day. I talked to YouTubers. I talked to a food photographer.
Wow.
I talked to a food photographer. I talked to a portrait photographer. I talked to a YouTuber. I talked to everybody I could. Literally everybody I could. And by the end of the day, I was super depressed. And super depressed to the point where I walked away from the plaza and sat down in a park and stared at ducks for about an hour.
Okay.
Right? And I called my boss on the phone because he's the one that gave me the dare. And I was like, hey, this sucks. You said this was going to be a great experience.
Yeah.
This sucks. This is terrible. And I was super depressed. And he just told me, go and treat yourself. Go and get an ice cream. So I went on my phone, I booked a hotel for that night, and I go to an ice cream shop back on the plaza, and I go and get ice cream. And as soon as I walk out of that ice cream shop, I see another guy with a skateboard in his hand. And he's got the skateboard, and I go up to him just like I was going to go up to anybody else, right? And after having a whole day of just barely 3-minute conversations that led nowhere, I didn't expect it to lead anywhere. So I was like, hey, what's your best trick? And he said, maybe an ollie.
Okay, right.
And I said, I laughed and said, me too, And I started to walk away just
Yeah.
because I didn't think that was going to go anyplace.
Right.
And he's actually the one that said to me, wait, is that a camera bag? And I was wearing my camera bag backpack on me.
Gotcha.
And he said to me, is that a camera bag? And I said, yeah. So we started talking about cameras, about where I got my inspiration, where he got his inspiration, and we went and grabbed a drink, and I went over to their place, and I ended up meeting some really cool people that I now live with in Kansas City. And for those of you who don't know, Patrick, he's all over my Instagram, he was the guy that I met with the skateboard, and Braxton and Hadro are the roommates that I live with in Kansas City. So the four of us live together in Kansas City. So Braxton's the one that's been in all these videos that I've been traveling with this whole time.
Wow, you just met that guy. Like, it was so random.
This was June too, so I've only known him, I don't know how many months that is.
Yeah, that's crazy. And so, what I wanted to throw down to you is, you're on this 90-day challenge. I want to throw down another challenge, if you want to accept it.
Oh, I definitely do.
Okay.
I definitely do. I'm ready for this.
It's after you finish your 90 days, maybe sometime over the course of 2019. Your goal, I think, should be to have a TED Talk, to sign up to have a TED Talk, to share that story right there, and how doing that one little thing led to your life completely being transformed.
Completely.
Like, probably, like, you can't even fathom the unfathomable, how much it actually changed. And you're only on day 21, right?
22.
22 today.
23.
Right?
No, all the days have run together.
Sure, but
All
like
of them run
that's
together.
like that's so baller. Just something so small, and I mean, it completely transformed your life. And I think that's like what a lot of folks miss is they'll talk about things. They have the knowledge, but they don't take the action. I hear some folks talk about that. Actually, a good buddy of mine, Kevin Bowe, talks about the knowledge action gap. And he picked that up from somebody where you have the knowledge, but for whatever reason, people don't take the action. There's this gap. And it's as simple as just like doing it and getting out there. Sometimes you're going to be depressed, you're going to get knocked down, but I mean, what a cool story.
Yeah.
And like how it's so crazy how it transformed your life.
Something on that knowledge action gap, you know,
Yeah.
and I think that's a great way to put it. You know, I've always put it as just taking action in general.
Right.
You know,
Right.
You have an idea and then you take action upon it.
Sure.
You know, and there are tons of people, and we were talking a little bit earlier. There are tons of people that want things, right?
Right.
So I've wanted to make YouTube videos for over a year.
Uh-huh.
You know, I have wanted to just go out and travel for over a year.
Okay.
I've wanted to just go out and meet people like I did in Kansas City for over a year.
Sure.
But what did it for me was a push of motivation.
Mhm.
And that push of motivation was in the form of a dare.
Okay.
And so my boss said, I dare you
Uh-huh.
to go to Kansas City on your day off. He
He
dared me,
That's how
right?
this whole thing started.
The whole thing started from one dare,
One
right? He dared me to do so.
Wow.
And him being somebody that I look up to,
Yeah.
and I care about his opinion of me,
Right.
he told me I wouldn't do it. He told me probably 8 or 10 times I wouldn't do it, He was like, no, you're not gonna do it. I know you. You're not gonna do it. He was like, you're not gonna do that at all. And that goes with the not taking action on it.
Sure.
And because he did that to me, I said, you know what? You.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do it.
Respect.
I'm gonna go to Kansas City.
Respect.
And then the second dare that I got, the push of motivation for YouTube videos and going out and making videos and traveling at the same time, was the dare to do 90 videos in 90 days. And that was a dare as well, you know? And that dare was given to me by Adam Horowitz.
Okay.
And he said, I'm gonna do 90 videos in 90 days in Spanish.
Right.
And you need to do 90 videos in 90 days in English.
Okay.
You need to do it.
Yeah.
And I said, all right.
Uh-huh.
You know, looking up to him, I care about what he thinks about me.
Yeah.
I said, okay.
Yeah.
And here we are. I haven't missed a single day.
Right.
And for me, that was in the form of a dare, you know, dared me to do that. My boss dared me to go to Kansas City. And now you've dared me to go and do a TED Talk.
And talk about your experience, because
So I'm going to have to do it
I
now.
think you have to.
I'm going to have to do it. I'm
You
gonna have to
know,
do it.
and maybe it's empowering people to, you know, dare other folks and having them stick with that, because it's so small and it transforms your life. And that's the thing, is people think it's these huge monumental shifts that we need to make to become the people that we want, but really it's so much smaller than we think. It's literally 1 degree. The difference between 211 degrees and 212 degrees is steam. Steam, that 1 degree, is what pretty much started or catalyzed the entire industrial revolution. Steam can power ships 1 degree. If you're off 1 degree, and you're traveling across the world, you're going to end up in a completely different place. When folks talk about baseball, and on average, a Hall of Fame hitter hits 6 times a week. A normal hitter, 5 times. One hit is the difference between Hall of Fame and nothing. And so it's just a small little change, and that change really is just like taking some sort of action.
Yeah. I think that's so sweet, man, and that's so sweet that you call it like this knowledge action gap. So like another question I would have for you is what motivates you to take action?
Sure. Sure.
I might not be here daring you
Yeah.
to go and do a TED Talk, which I
Right.
am daring you to go and do a TED Talk.
Yeah.
But that's
Okay.
another story.
Okay.
Another story.
Respect. Yeah.
It might not be a dare,
Yeah.
but what is it?
So I think it starts with, where I find my inspiration. And we were having a conversation before about Simon Sinek, and he talks about stack the deck, right? You become your surroundings. And so that's the first thing I've noticed. Everyone that's successful has a cool story, like yourself or Sam or just other folks who have really succeeded. And there was a point where they needed to cut off a lot of folks in their life, which is a difficult thing to do to start sort of leveling up.
I know it was very difficult for me.
Yeah.
It really was.
Right? It's not an easy thing to do, but the current state is just, it's got this gravitational holding force on folks that if you have your surroundings and your typical folks around you, and it's gonna hold you back in life. So you gotta make some changes if you want something a little bit different, right? The cliche kind of definition of insanity that we see on the internet all the time. But in short, getting back to your question, it's finding inspiration. I think the knowledge action gap actually came from impact theory as a YouTube out there, and this lady talks about 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, NASA blast off, and that's what she does to just get up and start to make her moves. It's finding inspirations, Ray Dalio, Dale Carnegie. It's things like that. I read, but I find I can't finish books. I want to be the type of person that can finish books. I have a bookshelf here with some books that I haven't finished.
That's funny.
What I'll do is I'll grab a book, crack it open to page 175, and sit down and read for 7 minutes and just see what 1 or 2 things I get out of there, and somehow that finds a way to apply to my life. There's this.
That's sweet.
It's crazy. This Bader-Meinhof phenomenon. Once you know about something, you start seeing it everywhere. And folks feel like you need to pick up a book and read it from page 1 to end of the book. But to be honest, in this generation, why read a book that's going to take 3 hours if you can go on YouTube and learn it in 5 minutes? So let's just skip right to the point that matters. And sometimes that means just cracking open the book and then talking to the people around you about that, and then they have experiences about it, and then something resonates with you, and they're like, okay, that's what I want to try. So it's inspiration like that, stacking the deck, monitoring what I take in, and also just doing something that I love to do. Because if I don't like what I want to do, or if I don't enjoy what I'm doing, I don't have the energy, I find. And managing my energy is, as I get older and wiser, I have to just say no to the things I don't want to do, and that's also hard for young folks to do.
Yeah.
And what did you say before? The 3 things, the nuggets that your buddy told you that hold you back?
3 things that will hold you back in life. So the first one is women,
Okay.
credit card debt, and addiction.
Okay. So we probably open that up to bad relationships.
Yeah.
Right. And focusing on that and feeling like you always got to be in a relationship.
If you're focused on a different person in your life, then you're not focused on yourself. And,
True.
that is not a bad thing.
Yeah.
That's not a bad thing. If that's where you want to be, then that's totally fine.
True.
Now I can say differently about credit card debt. I'm pretty sure nobody wants to be in credit card debt.
Truth.
Pretty sure nobody wants to be in credit card debt. I don't know.
But it holds you back. You can't do what you want to do.
Definitely,
You gotta finance that debt.
If I go out and make $10,000, but I'm in $10,000 of debt, I've made no money. So that really does hold you back.
Agreed.
And going back on the women thing, in no way am I saying that's a bad thing.
Right.
But I think everybody or most people have been in a part in their lives where they were held back by somebody.
I agree. I agree.
And we can almost make that a little bit less offensive by just saying bad influences.
Truth.
To people in my life. Those bad influences, they can hold you back. The people that just want to go and smoke weed when you want to go and work.
Sure.
And I relate that back to my friend Noah as well, who I was telling you about, where every day for an entire year, I asked him to come and do drugs with me, and he said no.
Every day.
Pissed me off. I got so mad. And then at the end of the year, he came to me and he said, Will, here's the album that I recorded by myself with all the equipment that I bought myself.
Yeah.
And that blew my mind.
Right.
You know? I think that's when I was first introduced to that whole theory of like, wow, I was a bad influence. You know?
Shows character that you can admit that about yourself. I feel like a lot of folks won't do that.
You know, and I might not have realized it at the time.
Yeah, right.
But now,
Yeah.
I was like, wow.
Right.
I was a horrible influence. Gaslight. You know? That was horrible. But yeah, you know, bad influences or negative influences,
Right.
credit card debt,
Right.
and any debt,
Sure.
to be completely honest, any debt,
Truth.
and addiction.
Yeah.
And addiction is a really, really big one.
Mm-hmm.
I struggle right now with the addiction of Starbucks.
Right.
It's a real problem.
Sure. Fair.
Starbucks is expensive.
It is. $6 for a coffee. We're getting up there.
Oh,
You know,
that's crazy. But you know, like I'll get a headache if I don't go to Starbucks.
Yeah.
You know, or if I don't drink substantial, way too much amount of coffee.
They got you hooked, right?
You know?
Yeah.
And so like battling those addictions is a huge thing as well, you know, because if there isn't Starbucks in a part of my day, I'm not gonna have a great day.
Mm-hmm.
You know? So what happens when I'm trying to have a great day and there's not a Starbucks for 100 miles?
Right. Right. I like that. Yeah. No, I mean, I hear you for sure. And so I think, you know, that's the trick is narrowing your life down or getting rid of the stuff that holds you back without being obsessive, right? Because it's easy to be like a pendulum and like, I'm gonna cut everything out.
Yeah.
You know, and there's so many times growing up where like, I'm not gonna do this, or I'm gonna work out every single day and the pendulum's gonna swing that way, and then 2 days later you're like, I'm gonna miss a day, and now you've kind of lost that moment.
Yeah.
Sort of deal,
100%.
right? So it's what's the easiest way to get the most bang out of your buck, bang for your buck, right? And so simplifying it down to like 3 or 4 things that you gotta cut that are holding you back is I realize the first thing that people need to do to at least is give themselves the energy to have to like play around in their head to figure out what do I want to do? Because it's very clear when I look at you, you're doing what you want to do.
Yeah.
You know? And if you were held back by those things, you probably wouldn't have had the energy to say yes to that day. You'd be like, I'm good.
Yeah.
You know? Or just didn't want to do it. And like, so that's the first thing. And then you just need time to sit in there because it takes you a bit of just reflection and trying a bunch of things. Like Gary Vee says all the time, just try as much stuff as you can.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely. I mean, I've tried a lot of things. Yeah.
Sure, right?
And I know I was talking with Sam a couple weeks ago when I was here in Denver. He tried everything.
Yeah, really?
He tried so many things.
Okay,
you know?
I didn't know that story.
And I think we talked about that in the other interview that I did with Sam. Tried this to this to this to this to this to this to this after he saw that motivation of Adam Horowitz in his video.
Right.
And I was like, I want to do that. I want to be that. Well, I need to get on.
Right.
And so we went through and tried a ton of different things.
Right, for sure. That's what you got to do. So that's where my inspiration has come from. It's stacking the deck, putting some good stuff into my brain without being obsessive about it, and then, you know, being honest with myself, like, what am I naturally good at?
Yeah.
What am I naturally good at? And if you just invest in what you're naturally good at, you get explosive returns. There was this study done at UNL, and they studied 1,000 kids, and they said, read, you know, this book, and what they found is there's 2 different folks. There's folks that read on average 75 words a minute, and there was folks that started with 300 words a minute. So it was a speed reading research sort of project, if you will. And they went through the same program, worked with the same professors for 4 weeks, worked on all the same speed reading techniques, and at the end of the 4 weeks, they tracked the progress. And the folks that started with 75, they went to about 150 words a minute. That's still good return, right?
Yeah, that's really good.
The folks who started at 300, so naturally a little bit more talented, they went to 2,900 words a minute.
Holy cow.
2,900 words a minute. So that tells you, right, like, if you're not doing what you're good at, you're never gonna get those returns.
That's insane.
And the problem with society is we naturally are weakness fixers. We focus on what we do poorly and let me spend my time there. And then I only get the return from 75 to 150, which is cool because I'm shoring up opportunities, but I'm missing the return of 300 to 2,900. That's when it's fun. That's when life gets fun. That's when you're doing something better than anybody else and you become a master of your craft.
That's insane.
Right?
That is so cool.
Yeah. And we're conditioned since, I think about my nephew. He's like not the best at math. He's a phenomenal actor and sports player and, good with various other subjects. But what do? We put him in math lessons. And now he's spending his time there, which is missing the returns of that 3 to 2,900, which is just a bummer that that's how society is.
But that's also a thing that I think is, in my opinion, a problem with, let's say, a school system.
Right.
I did terrible all through high school. I was terrible at every single class besides art.
Okay.
And I loved art. I basically lived in the art classroom. I still talk to my art teacher all the time.
Do you really?
He's an amazing dude.
Nice.
And I'm actually going back there next week when I get back in St. Louis to go and talk to him.
Okay.
And I lived in that art class. I excelled in art. I made such cool things in art that are hanging up on the wall and in display cases still at the school.
Really?
Right. And all the other classes, I wasn't good at. And I wasn't good at math.
Sure.
I was horrible at English.
Okay.
I was maybe okay in any history class.
Right.
And science, I was really not that great at either.
Sure.
Those big main classes that schools push. And my principal came to me, and I ended up hashing out a deal with her.
Okay.
But she came to me and says, okay, well, I'm not going to let you do any more art classes until you do these math classes, these science classes, these history classes, these English classes. Until you can do these, I'm not going to let you do any more art classes.
Classic, right? Okay.
So that's kind of the same thing that you're saying here is, where do we put them? Math.
Right.
Where did I get put? Math.
Right.
I spent countless extra hours trying to learn math, which I don't remember any of. I still couldn't tell you anything that I learned in those countless extra hours. I couldn't tell you anything that I learned in summer school, in all those years of math.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell you.
Right.
Because it's something that I wasn't really passionate about.
Right.
And maybe that's where I leveled up from 75 to 150, was in math, because I'm sure I did improve.
Yeah, of course, right.
But then art is maybe where I leveled up from 300 to 2,900.
Yeah, exactly.
That's insane. That's crazy.
Right? It's about, just following what you have conviction towards, which it sounds so easy on the surface, but even for me in this industry, when I first got in the industry, I didn't have the traditional financial background, right? And I was looking at myself like, man, I need to get a degree, I need to get like a CFA, which is like this really difficult exam, and I started studying for it and do all these things, yada, yada, yada. And then one day I'm like, this isn't me, I'm not good at it. Can I do it? Yeah. And once you know you can do it, it's like, cool, you've given yourself that confidence. But then I just took all the books for that material, literally threw them off my kitchen counter. I'm like, what, this isn't me.
Yeah.
And so it's admitting to yourself that if you're not good at that, yes, you can get at that, can get good at that. That's a growth mindset. Sure, you can get good at anything, but if you're not being honest with where your strengths lie, then you're gonna miss out. And I wanted to be good at a CFA because I thought my credibility would come from that. If my credibility would come from that, I would feel more confident as a person, and that would translate to more success, happiness, and I was just going about it the wrong way. I thought I was doing all the right things, but once you're honest with yourself, and it just, everything starts to come together, and it's just more fun. I was talking to you before, I don't feel like I work for a living. It's great. That's the biggest gift that you can give yourself, is not waking up, being in debt, feel like I gotta go and go to work because I have to finance that debt, but also it's like, I get to.
Yeah.
And as soon as you lose the I get to, you gotta start looking elsewhere.
100%.
Right.
And that's 100% what happened to me with circus performing full time. I burnt myself out. It went from I get to go to work today to I have to go to work today. And that's when I picked up a camera.
Okay.
And before I'd ever picked up a camera, I was planning on performing full time until I was 21, and then joining Cirque du Soleil and going and studying in Canada for a couple years, and then joining the biggest circus on the planet, basically.
Cirque du Soleil, that's next level.
Which has been my dream since a little kid.
Right.
It's been my dream since a little kid, and it was the fact that Cirque du Soleil is the combination of circus and performance skills, along with acting, costumes, makeup, and dance, all in one.
Right.
You go to a lot of, I don't know if you know anything about circus, but there's a couple. Most circuses that you go and see are, you do this trick, then you do this trick, then you do this trick, then you might incorporate the audience in this trick, and then you do this trick. that's where I was performing.
Gotcha.
I was performing in that style of show.
Sure.
And then Cirque du Soleil,
Yeah.
it's you do a trick, and then you dance, mixed with some acting, in a crazy costume,
Sure.
mixed with some more actors,
Sure.
who all do a trick together.
Right.
You then dance some more and act some more, and it's a story. It's a painted picture, and it's
Mhm.
beautiful.
It is beautiful.
You know, it's so beautiful, and that's where I wanted to be, coming from acting
Right.
as a little kid to
Sure.
performing
Okay.
as a young adult, to combine those together into one gigantic, awesome thing. You know, and I will forever keep circus as a hobby.
Okay.
Forever.
That's cool.
You know,
Right.
I love it. I
Yeah.
love everything about it.
Right.
It's the fact that I had to go to work instead of I got to go to work.
Sure.
And so I think what I kind of like, what I should take from that in my brain is that although I did burn myself out, it's still a passion that
Right.
I have.
Yeah.
You know, it's still a passion, and it's still something that I'm going to continue to do here and there. You know, I keep a unicycle in the trunk of my car.
Yeah.
You never know when you're gonna want a unicycle.
Never. You never know, right?
Never
For
know.
sure, right? You know, I actually think that's really related because I think about 2004, Stanford keynote speaker Steve Jobs, and he talked about, I don't know how much you know about Jobs, but obviously CEO, of Apple before Tim Cook passed on, right? And just an amazing, sort of story. And he was adopted, and his original parents, his birthing parents said, you have to send Steve to school. Steve's got to go to college, made his adopting parents promise. And so he said yes, parents said yes. He's starting, college, he's taking classes that he doesn't really want to take.
Yeah.
He feels like he's wasting his, parents' money, and he decides to drop out. And he's like, I dropped out and started auditing a calligraphy class and this sort of a history class and all the classes that I was interested in. And had I not done that, the Mac and Apple wouldn't be what it is today. It all connects. Looking forward, it's hard to connect. You can't connect, but looking back, it all connects.
Yeah.
And I tie that into, because when we say do something you're passionate about and I get to go to work, I realize a lot of people don't have that opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's just the nature of life, right? But how do you get to that point? When I think about Jobs, all he did is just whatever he's interested in. Just spend some time.
100%.
That's it. It's literally that simple, right? And then it leads to this, which leads to this, which leads to this. Then that's what gets you there, right?
100%.
And then looking back, it all sort of connects. So all you got to do is obviously you have to your current obligations, but then just research anything that you're interested in, and then keep a learning receipt. And when I say learning receipt, I tell folks write down everything you know about that topic right now. It's usually extremely small. And then every day you add to it, and at the end of the month, show me your receipt of what you put into that.
Awesome.
Right?
That is so cool.
And if it's still only a paragraph long, then that's on you. You up. And a year goes by and you keep saying I want to learn about this, I want to learn about this, I want to learn about this. You're just one of those people that talk about it, but you only have a paragraph of a receipt. You've paid less than $1, but you'll go pay $6 for a cup of coffee and go spend 3 hours with your friends doing nothing, smoking weed and playing Fortnite. Great fun, you need to do that life, but here's why you're not getting there, and why you have to wake up and go to the same job, and you're in the same relationship, and nothing changes because you're not putting in the time.
And that goes back to the taking action.
Yeah.
What did you, the action gap?
Knowledge action gap.
Knowledge action gap. It goes right back to that.
Yeah. Right? It's that simple. It's just do something. And that's, Sam Strauss, we've mentioned a few times, he has got this way, because I recently just started putting some of my content out. I knew I want to take my public speaking to the next level and have a TED Talk, but I kept I don't know how to get there. I feel like everything's got to be organized. And I had one conversation with him, and long story short, he pretty much sums it up with just do it. What are you waiting for? Just do it. And that night I was he's right. What am I waiting for? And so that night I opened it up, started doing it, putting out content. It's kind of embarrassing, kind of weird, and now it's natural for me. If I don't do that, I feel like I up that day, and I look forward to it.
100%. There's one of my favorite quotes. Two of my favorite quotes is of course just do it. Just go and do it.
Right.
And second favorite quote is do what you can't, which is from Casey Neistat.
Okay. Yeah.
And I think this applies to some very crazy things. And his definition of it, taking his words here, is if you want to go and be an astronaut, and your parents say you can't be an astronaut because that's unreasonable, you go and be that astronaut.
Yes.
You go and do that.
Yes,
You
I like that.
want to be a doctor?
Right.
Go and be a doctor.
Right.
If you want to go and travel the world, go and travel the world.
Uh-huh.
And if anybody tells you you can't, that person.
Yeah, right?
You know? And I don't think Casey Neistat would be in the place where he is today
Right.
if he hadn't have had that mindset of do what you can. Because everybody told him he couldn't go and be a huge YouTuber making a video every day. That was his thing. That was his challenge. That's how he blew up. He said, I'm gonna do a video every day for 365 days. And he did it. He didn't miss a single day.
Okay.
For 365 days.
Right.
And I think he continued on past that. Because if you do it for 365 days,
It's a habit.
you know,
Right.
you just gotta keep doing it.
Right.
You gotta have to keep doing it. Otherwise, you're not gonna have anything to do all day. It's gonna
Uh-huh.
be weird. But he says, do what you can. And I love that.
Yeah.
And then another one I just throw on top of that is you miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
Agreed.
Which is just a good one to throw on top of any motivational conversation right
All
there.
the time, right?
All the time.
So true. Just do that. And so the things that you're saying, quotes, I call those principles.
Principles. Okay.
Principles. And I got that one from Ray Dalio. His whole thing on principles is anything that's going to happen in life has happened in the past.
Yeah.
And so come up with these principles or these standard operating procedures or these quotes to live by that when that comes up, I don't have to waste my bandwidth on making that decision. I just always operate that way. And so, you know, a couple of things that you said is do what you can. Just do it, you know, and that just always operate in that way. Because they say the science out there says you can only make 200 quality decisions in a given day. 200, that's it. Putting on your socks, choosing my outfit, which way am I going to drive to work, what am I going to eat for breakfast, those are decisions. By the time I get to work sometimes, if I didn't structure my day right, I'm at 200 decisions before 10:30.
Yep.
And I don't have any bandwidth left for the things that are actually important in life. You know, so these principles, these quotes, these things that resonate with you, not with other people, because there's so much data out there. The resonates with you, like jot that down in a book, create your own set of principles, so when that comes up, you don't have to think about that, you just do that. And so that book right there, that's what I do. Anytime I come up with a principle, something that resonates, no matter where I hear it, I jot that down. I have my list of principles that I just try and operate off of. Otherwise, it's like you go through life and you feel like I'm doing this for this person, I'm doing this for that reason, I have to do this, I'm late, I'm gonna check my social media feed, I wanna go hang out with my friends, I gotta eat, and you never have time to actually think about the decisions that you're making and the implications that you're having, which essentially boils down to you're missing the return of the 300 and the 2900. So it's like you have to be strategic. There's a culture by design or there's a culture by default. If you don't have one, then you just default on whatever the you're currently doing. And then you end up with that life, and then before you know it, 10, 20, 30 years goes by, and that sucks. And that's why I do what what I do, and I love to do this because it's like some way I so many resources, so many good people. I have great family and friends around me that have kind of helped cultivate this in me, and I just want to share this with people because it's so cool to see people just stay woke and get woke, and it's easy to just be a zombie through life.
100%. 100%.
Do what you want to do.
So many zombies through life, and kind of what I saw in Kansas City. I could even relate that back to what I saw in Kansas City. Is when I walked around and everybody's on their own path. Everybody doesn't have any time to talk to anybody else or anyone to talk to anybody else.
Sure.
They might not understand why I went and took my day off and drove to a different city just to go and talk to people.
Right.
Like, why would you do that? It's stupid.
Yeah. Sure.
So I can even relate that back as well.
I love that. That's another part that I feel like you should put in your TED Talk. Is you're telling people you're going down to buy a bag that you probably won't give a about in 2 years. Missing an interaction to deal with a person. Sometimes we just devalue people interactions. But
100%, yeah.
Imagine this planet with no one else on it. It would suck. It doesn't matter if you have all the Lamborghinis, the nice houses, the nice things. It's people that make shit fun. And you have the chance to interact with people and you're on your phone, you're distracted, you're in your head, you're thinking about some if you have the chance to interact with a stranger and you going back to the learning thing, you can learn from that person. It
100%.
doesn't matter like what they do. It could be
Oh,
a kid, a custodian. It could be someone that, society or you look like, oh, they're beneath me. No one f***ing beneath or above anyone.
That's like when you say the janitor or the CEO.
It doesn't matter, bro. You can learn something from anyone, because if I find someone, I'm 29, if I find a 15-year-old kid who like seems like he's got, together, it's like he's got 15 years of life experiences that I don't have.
Yeah.
Just because I'm 29 doesn't mean I know everything that he knows, and we go through life and we have this macho demeanor. At least I see it with guys sometimes. They're like, they don't want to admit to having to learn something from somebody younger than them, or that doesn't have the nice that they have. You're missing out, because this kid's got 15 years of experience.
Yeah.
Like, there's something you can learn from
Everybody. I 100% agree with that. A good buddy of mine, his name's Joe Figueroa. He's also a public speaker.
Okay.
He told me to go and ask everybody I could, what's your story?
What's your story?
Right? That's his thing. That's his question.
Yeah.
He goes, he's a public speaker about living the life you want to live.
Right.
And he goes around to schools all across the country.
Right.
And just speaks about how he overcame the difficulties in his life and how he built the life that he wants to live today, and just kind of showing kids that you can do those things.
Right.
So his whole thing is permission to play.
Okay.
And
Ooh, I love that.
oh, it's so good.
I got
It's
two principles to my book now. Permission to
I'll,
play.
I'll have to give you a copy of his book,
Oh,
because
yeah.
it's amazing. Permission to play.
Nice.
But he says, ask everybody what's your story, because you can learn so much from anybody.
Yeah.
You can learn so much from everybody. I can go to you and I can say, what's your story? And we talked about that last night. We talked about it again right here.
Right.
I learned from that.
Yeah.
I'm inspired by your story. I'm inspired by your story. Say I was over here behind the camera. I'm inspired by Braxton's story. I'm inspired by Pat's story when I met him.
Right.
He's traveled the entire country before he ended up in Kansas City as a photographer.
Right.
Inspired by Hondo's story. I'm inspired by everybody's story.
Yeah.
Because you can learn so much from it, whether it's the janitor or the CEO. And then building upon that as well, in this day and age, you were saying everybody's on their phones. It's very true. In this day and age, everybody is on their phones.
Right.
And there's a certain thing about being on your phone too much, per se.
Truth.
Where you lose the ability to have a meaningful conversation in person.
Right.
And so some of those people that I might have run into on the street in Kansas City that I didn't have any meaningful conversation with, said hi, talked for maybe a minute, I could have texted them and had an amazing conversation. Isn't that a weird one to think about?
Yeah, right. And I noticed that about your respect, that we were at Cherry Cricket last night grabbing a burger, and you were in the middle of a text, and one of us around the table started talking to you about something, and I was curious if you were gonna put your phone down or ignore that comment for a second and focus on this. I don't know why I just noticed that or observed that with people. And you were in the middle of the text, you clearly didn't finish. You clicked aside, turn it over, and engage in that conversation.
Yeah. And I do find myself finishing that text.
Which is, right? Sometimes you do that, but I just thought, that was interesting.
Of course. But I think that, the aspect of conversation and in person is so important.
Yeah.
It's so important.
Right.
And last night we met you. You were talking a little bit about the science of conversation.
Yeah.
Which I thought was really interesting, because that's something that also really interests me. You make sure to make eye contact.
Right.
You look at them, and you said make sure to note the color of their eyes.
Note the color of
which
their
I
eyes.
thought was really interesting.
Yeah.
What were a couple of the other things that you said?
If you can use someone's name 3 times within the first 2 minutes of meeting them, that's an easy way to build trust.
Okay.
Notice people's body language. So if you go up and you ask somebody what's your story, or in trying to engage them in a conversation, it's going to feel awkward and uncomfortable for you. Or even if it's just a conversation that you're having with your boss or somebody, if you look at their feet. So we're having a conversation right now, right? And you can't really see my feet, but if I'm like this and you're talking to me, I clearly, you're not going to.
You don't give a about what I'm saying.
Right. If I'm like this, a little bit better, but you can do that by looking at people's feet. If their feet are painting or are facing away from you, they don't want to be having that conversation with you. So I'll look at like that. Using people's name, again, it's the sweetest, most important sound that anyone can hear in any language. And what do? Shake your hand, what's your name, and then you forget that. like that.
100%.
Take the minute, take the time to like recognize, realize that person's name, use it, note their eye contact, and then to your buddy's point is ask them about their story. People love to talk about themselves.
100%.
I put a post.
I know. I like to talk about myself way too much.
It's fun, right?
Way too much. Yeah, it is.
It is. Everyone wants to talk about their story, which is an easy hack to get to know anybody.
So, let's see. Where were we? We filled up the entire SD card on that last SD card, so I had to run and grab a new one. So if the framing's a little bit different, that's why. Anyway, I think we're about done anyway, so we're gonna wrap it up here. I want to wrap it up with: is there anything that you would say to somebody that really wants to get off their and make a big change in their life? You know, because I continually get DMs that say, "I wish I was doing what you're doing. I want to be doing what you're doing. How are you doing what you're doing?" And like, I know that all of these people are ready to make a change, and I know that everybody watching this video right now is ready to make a change. And how do they get there, you know?
You or do I look at the camera for this? I'm gonna look at the camera.
Do it,
It's going on now.
100%.
You want to turn up in life, here's what you got to do. Take a minute, grab a piece of paper, and divide this piece of paper into 4 sections. In each section, write the role that you play in life. Maybe you're a brother, maybe you're a parent, maybe you're a significant other, maybe you're an employee for this company, maybe you want to be, whatever it is that, what do you even call yourself? Like what you do?
Performer?
You're a performer, okay, right? So that's a role that you play in your life, right? So you write in each section, one role. And then a couple words or phrases that define success in that role. For you, maybe 90 videos in 90 days. Yeah, me as a public speaker, it's motivating people. If it's a significant other, it's like, I want to make that person feel like a 10 in every interaction. A family and friend is also a role I play. I want to make every situation better because I'm there. Another role that I play is like me incorporated, which means doing things like turning up in public speaking engagements and being healthy and yada yada yada, right? The 4 things, the 4 roles roughly that you play in life, define success in each one of those roles, and then immediacy of reflection. At the end of the week, at the very least, or each day, but at the very least at the end of the week, sit down with no one else around, no phones, no bullshit. You gotta be completely honest with yourself and say, in this role, in this area, did I win the week or did I lose the week? And be very honest, put a W or an L. Add it all up and like, I was, 100% from the line this week, or maybe I was 500. And then take that and plan out your next week. What are the 2 or 3 things you're gonna do that you wanna keep, that you wanna maintain? To do that, you have to call yourself out and use that to help yourself turn up. So it's just being honest with yourself.
That is so sweet, dude. I'm gonna use that.
Do that.
I'm definitely.
Hell yeah! Tell me how it goes. I'll be curious.
I'm definitely gonna use that. I'm definitely gonna let you know how it goes.
Take that respect.
Is there? I know we talked a lot about the. Man, I forget what it's called again. The action gap.
The knowledge action gap.
Knowledge action gap.
Right.
You know, I think that's really interesting, and I think definitely something that you need to take from this is the knowledge action gap. And honestly, just hearing that enough times, that makes me want to take action. You know, and I think definitely that's a little tidbit to think about. Another one, what's another little tidbit you think about?
Going up to folks, asking them their story.
Yeah, what's your story?
Right, try and engage in conversation. Stack the deck. Who are the people?
Stack the deck, yes.
Right, who are the people that you put yourself around, and that like elevates you or holds you back? People in your life add to it or they take away from that. And it's, to the Steve Jobs, it's like focus on whatever you're interested in, what you love. And just create a learning receipt for that at the end of the month. Like, show somebody your receipt, show me your receipt. Like, show yourself what you've done, and then at the end of the week when you sit down and won or lost, you can say you won in that area, because you got the receipt to prove it, the proof of purchase.
Oh yeah. That is absolutely insane. This has been like so motivating, inspiring for me, and I hope it's been
likewise.
It's
turned up from meeting you. Hell yeah,
of course, my man. Of course, man. So I want to end this off here with, if you have any questions, I know I answer all of my DMs. Feel free to DM me on Instagram, and feel free to DM you as well on Instagram.
Definitely.
If you have any questions, I know you're doing something great with your Instagram right now, which is
helping people just turn up, helping folks localize and identify what it is that you're good at better than anybody, naturally realizing if you're in that speed reading category, right, per se, and how do you turn up and I just like to get inquisitive with folks and set up a conversation over the phone and help you really get those returns from 300 to 2,900.
It might be a better idea just to DM him and not me. Just go straight through me to him. That's what we should do.
Love it.
Oh my goodness. This has been absolutely epic. I do want to apologize right here, right now, that I've worn the same outfit for the past 6 days. So I'm going to say sorry for that. But tomorrow, it will be different because we are snowboarding in the mountains with Sam. I'm going to end the video off here with a keep living like a drunk little kid, and I will see you guys tomorrow.